Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're opening up quite a remarkable subject. We're looking at Aruṭpirakāca, Rāmaliṅka, Vaḷḷalār.
Often just called Vaḷḷalār.
Yeah.
And yes, remarkable is the right word, not just a saint or a poet, though he was both, but really an architect of a complete spiritual system.
Exactly. And the sources you've helped us gather, they detail this incredibly holistic path. It demands transformation on, well, pretty much every level, spiritual, ethical, and quite surprisingly, the physical too.
That physical aspect is key. It's often misunderstood or overlooked.
Right. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack Vaḷḷalār's blueprint, focusing not just on the high-level philosophy, but the deep, practical meaning behind his actions, his institutions, his specific teachings.
Because it all points towards this one almost unbelievable goal. Immortalized supreme living. And it's crucial right from the start to get what that means in his context.
Okay.
This isn't just about achieving, say, heaven or some kind of liberation mukti after the body dies. No, this is presented as a science.
A science?
Yes, a science of preventing physical decay, achieving a deathless, luminous transformation while still on Earth, in the body.
That is radical. It explains why his followers see him as a supreme incarnation, a Maha-Avatāra. His day is marked around October 5th, I believe.
That's right, Puratasi Madam, Chitharai Natchatharam. And his main work, the Tiru Aruṭpa, it's immense. It reads like poetry, beautiful devotional poetry.
But it's packed with much more.
Oh, absolutely. It blends theological praise, deep mystical experiences, really complex esoteric philosophy, and very specific, often hidden occult yogic secrets. He managed to synthesize centuries of spiritual tradition into this one cohesive and, as you said, radical system.
And he felt this radical approach was necessary.
Apparently so. According to the sources, he looked at the spiritual landscape of his time and saw it as, well, fundamentally flawed. He even declared he had a divine mandate.
A mandate from God.
Directly. He stated he was brought here specifically to guide people he described in quite stark terms.
How did he describe them?
As black at heart but white exteriorly. The original phrase is agato kat tuveit turunda ulagar.
Wow. Black at heart but white exteriorly. That's quite pointed. It sounds like a direct attack on hypocrisy.
It absolutely is. It targets anyone putting up a front, a white exterior of appearing righteous, pious, following rituals while internally they're harboring prejudice, selfishness, a real lack of compassion. That's the black heart.
So his mission was to change that inner landscape.
Exactly, to bring these people, and really everyone, into what he called the true path, the Sanmargam.
And the aim wasn't some far-off reward in another life.
No, he wanted them to achieve liberation, mukti, right here, right now, agato paratep, liberation on Earth.
So how did he actually structure this massive world-changing project? What were the practical steps?
He set up 3 crucial institutions. You think of them as anchors, physical places, yes, but also spiritual focal points for the whole Sanmargam. They kind of represent 3 stages: philosophy, practice, and then gnosis or wisdom.
Okay, let's break those down. The first one, the theoretical framework.
That would be the Truth Society, the Sanmargakangam or Sanmargasiga.
The Truth Society. What was its purpose?
It represents the conceptual peak, the philosophical heart. You know how traditionally spiritual paths often emphasize one approach, like karma yoga service or bhakti devotion.
Or yoga itself, meaning union, or jnana, the path of wisdom.
Right. Vaḷḷalār Sanmargam wasn't just another path alongside those. He presented it as the synthesis, the ultimate 4th path, the path of final wisdom that integrates the merits of all the others.
So not choosing one, but bringing them all together. What does that achieve, philosophically speaking?
It aims for something he termed a vuno machipu. It's a bit tricky to translate, but maybe final wisdom, or the culmination of the wisdom thread.
Okay. And how is that achieved?
By synthesizing the ahanta samarasa, the 6-edged harmony.
6-edged harmony. That sounds technical.
It is. It refers to reconciling the 6 major, often conflicting schools of Indian philosophy, the Antarshana. Vaḷḷalār's point was that true liberation is impossible if you're stuck in sectarian debates or philosophical arguments.
You have to go beyond that.
You have to unify all those previous efforts, the service, the love, the union techniques, to reach the absolute non-dual knowledge, jhana in its highest form.
So the Truth Society was like the think tank, the philosophical unifier trying to heal these old divisions. Makes sense. Okay, moving from the head to the heart, maybe. The practical cornerstone.
That would be the charitable asylum, the Satyadharmakala, or Satyadharmashala. And this is probably his most famous institution because of its very tangible mission.
This is the one with the ever-burning stove.
Exactly, the Anaya Upu. It's been providing continuous Anadadam food donation for, over 150 years now?
Incredible.
So if the Sanmarkakangam is the why and the what, the Sakyadharmashala is the how. It's the physical embodiment, the daily practice of the absolute foundation of Vaḷḷalār's path.
Which is Jivakariyam.
Compassion towards all life. Jivakuryam.
That symbol of an ever-burning stove.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful. It suggests compassion isn't just a one-off act, but this constant, ongoing spiritual effort, like an eternal flame inside.
That's a great way to put it. And he placed immense spiritual weight on this act of feeding the hungry. It wasn't just social work for him.
Why so central? Why feeding people specifically?
Because he explicitly called Jivakurunyam the mutapai, the very first step, the essential prerequisite for salvation, for mukti.
The first step. Not just a step, but the first.
Yes. And the sources explain the sort of spiritual mechanics behind it. He distinguishes between God's grace, which he calls Arut, and translates as major mercy, and the soul's natural expression, which is compassion, our compassion. He calls that minor mercy.
Okay, major mercy, God's grace,
Hmm.
minor mercy, our compassion. What's the connection?
The path flows from minor to major. Actively cultivating deep, selfless human compassion, Jivakurunyam is presented as the only way to attract and receive God's grace, the major mercy.
So our compassion is like the key, the currency needed to access divine grace.
That's a good analogy. You have to demonstrate that capacity for selfless love in the finite realm, dealing with physical hunger and suffering, before the infinite, as it were, opens up to you. The source material is quite clear. When true, unadulterated compassion is really established in a person,
Yes.
the enlightenment and bliss that follow are described as literally being the enlightenment of God and the bliss of God manifesting through that individual.
Wow. That's not just receiving grace, that's becoming a channel for it. Sounds like a spiritual feedback loop. Our compassion opens the door, and God's grace rushes in, amplifying that compassion even further.
Precisely. And this work, this compassion, was directly aimed at relieving suffering, dukkha. He actually listed specific causes of suffering he wanted to eliminate.
Oh, interesting. What were they? Did he categorize them?
He did. He listed 7 root causes. They
Yeah.
start with the very physical and move towards the more existential.
Okay, let's walk through them. The 7 causes of dukkha.
First, the most immediate, pasi hunger. Then dagam thirst. And pichi, which means pain, sickness, or disease.
Right, the fundamental physical miseries, the things that Charitable Asylum tackled head on.
Exactly. By relieving these, you give the person, whether they are the giver or the receiver, the basic stability, the grounding needed for anything higher. You can't meditate effectively if you're starving or in agony.
Makes sense. What comes after those physical ones?
Then you get into the deeper, more mental or existential layers. Mupu, old age, the process of decay, bayam, fear, all kinds of fear.
Mhm.
And kablai, worry, anxiety, mental anguish.
Hunger, thirst, pain,
Yeah.
then old age, fear, worry. That covers a lot of human experience. What's the 7th?
The ultimate one, sakbat, death itself.
Death. So started with feeding the hungry was actually the first step in a process aimed at conquering death itself.
That's the connection. It shows how integrated his system is. Addressing physical suffering through compassion stabilizes the body and mind. That stability then becomes the launchpad for the higher quest, the quest to overcome aging, fear, worry, and finally, death. Jivakurunyam isn't separate from the goal of immortality. It's the necessary beginning.
That completely reframes the idea of charity. It's not just kindness, it's laying the foundation for spiritual transformation, for potentially transcending mortality.
Exactly. It's the fuel for the journey.
Okay, so we have the philosophical framework, Sanmarkakangam,
Yep.
and the practical compassionate foundation, Sadyahānmakalai. What's the third institution? The destination,
That would be the true Gnostic assembly. The Satyanyana Sabai, or Satyana Sabha.
Gnostic assembly. Jinya means wisdom or knowledge, right?
Yes, Satya means truth. So the assembly of true knowledge or true wisdom. This is where the seeker, having established the philosophy and the ethical practice, can directly experience the transcendent truth.
And how is that facilitated?
This is where Vaḷḷalār revived, quite dramatically, the ancient Siddha practice of light worship, Uvaipan, or Jyoti Upasana. The entire focus of worship here is on the Aruṭpirakāca,
The supreme light of grace.
the vast grace light. It's pure, formless light worship.
So a structure emerges. The philosophical head, the compassionate heart, and the enlightened eye focusing on the light. It's beautifully systematic.
It is.
But who gets to walk this path? How does someone become eligible? This sounds like it requires serious commitment. That brings us to the entrance requirements, doesn't it? The holistic discipline, Turenukam.
Absolutely. This isn't a casual path. The Purnukam is a set of 4 disciplines, Nangovagay Sanmarga Ukaga. Think of them as the required qualifications, the eligibility criteria.
4 disciplines, are they sequential?
They represent a progressive cleansing and mastery. It starts with the most external, the physical, and moves steadily inward towards the spirit or soul itself.
Okay, let's start on the outside. Discipline 1, sense discipline. Indiriya Wukam, what does that involve?
This focuses entirely on the gross physical body, the Stula Bhuta Sharira. The main practice here is Panyakopta Shuddhi.
Panka is 5, Bhuta is element. So cleansing the 5 elements. Earth, water, fire, air, space.
Exactly. Cleansing these elements as they constitute our physical form and our immediate environment. It's about mastering the senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch.
Why is that elemental sensory cleansing so critical as a first step before you even get to the mind?
Because according to this system, the external world constantly bombards us, pulling our energy outward through the senses. If the senses are untamed, they pollute our inner perception.
Okay.
This discipline cleanses what the texts call the Vijatya Shuddhamaya Tattvani, the 20 impure mystery evolutes. These are basically the objects of the senses, the things we see, hear, smell, etc., and the sensory organs themselves.
So by controlling the input, you start purifying the system.
Precisely. If your senses run wild, your attention is scattered, your vital energy, prana, gets drained, and the body is constantly subjected to influences that cause decay. The goal here is to make the physical body stable, healthy, and still, to turn it into a reliable vehicle for the deeper work, not a source of constant distraction and depletion.
Control the gates to the kingdom, basically. Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Moving inward from the senses. Discipline 2 is psychic discipline. Karanhuka.
Yes. Karan refers to the inner instruments, the psychic tools. This discipline tackles the subtle body.
What are these psychic instruments?
Traditionally, they include the mind, manas, the intellect or discerning faculty, buddhi, the ego or I maker, ahakara, and the consciousness or memory bank, katitta.
So, mastering thoughts, ego, intelligence.
Right. The sources we have are a bit less explicit on the specific practices for Karan Ukam compared to the others, but its placement is significant. It comes after sense control and before the higher ethical and spiritual disciplines.
Meaning, you need physical stability first, then mental and emotional stability, before you can effectively practice universal compassion or access deep spiritual states.
That seems to be the sequence. You need a calm, clear, controlled mind as the bridge between the physical and the truly spiritual.
Okay. Discipline 3, life discipline. Jiva Ukam. Now, jiva means life or soul. This sounds like it connects directly back to Jivakariya.
It absolutely does. This is where that foundational principle of compassion is put into practice at the highest, most uncompromising level. It demands absolute non-discrimination.
Non-discrimination in what way?
In how you act towards all living beings. The phrase used is elamatayatam, towards all humans, but the principle extends to all life. You must act without any distinction based on, well, any category people use to divide themselves.
Like what specifically?
The texts list them out. Jati caste, kamayam, religion or sect, kulam, lineage or clan, kutiram, family line ancestry, kutaram, rules of a particular philosophical school, kutiram, scriptural authority or tradition.
Wow. That's a wholesale rejection of pretty much every social and religious identity marker used for division.
Completely. It's a radical leveling.
Yeah.
If you truly see all life, jiva, as emanating from the same divine source, the Aruṭpirakāca, then discriminating based on these external labels becomes spiritually illogical, even impossible.
And how does achieving this state connect to progress?
Vaḷḷalār taught that when this absolute non-discriminating compassion, this jiva ukam, is firmly established in your heart, something crucial happens.
Which is?
He said, knowledge and love will blossom along with it. This state is the direct path to experiencing God's enlightenment and divine bliss. It's where our minor mercy fully aligns with and draws in the major mercy.
The merging happens through non-discrimination.
Yes. But this discipline also contains arguably the most stringent and potentially controversial ethical mandate in the whole system.
Ah, this must be about diet and nonviolence.
Exactly. The complete condemnation of taking life and consuming flesh.
How did he phrase it?
He declared with absolutely no ambiguity that those who practice Aruṭpirakāca pulepachipum, killing life and eating flesh, are considered puseatar,
Which means?
spiritual outcasts, people outside the community of the true path.
That is incredibly strict. What's the underlying reasoning for such a hard line? It seems harsher than just recommending vegetarianism.
The reasoning flows directly and inexorably from Jiva. If the entire path is built on compassion towards life, Juma, then willfully destroying life, kolai, and consuming that destruction, pulepachipu, fundamentally breaks the connection. It violates the first principle.
So it's not just a dietary rule, it's a spiritual incompatibility.
Precisely. The source material even gives guidance on interaction. It says you should still offer basic charity, like food, to alleviate their hunger because compassion extends even to them, but you should not offer them friendship, social intimacy, or welcome them into the spiritual fold of the Sanmargam until they definitively renounce those actions and embrace the true path's core tenet of nonviolence.
This really underscores that for Vaḷḷalār, ethics weren't just social niceties. They were absolute, non-negotiable prerequisites for any genuine spiritual progress, especially towards the goal of an immortal body.
You've hit the nail on the head. If you aim to make your body indestructible and luminous, you cannot build it on a foundation of death and violence. The purity required for transformation demands complete non-harming.
Okay. Physical discipline, psychic discipline, life discipline based on non-discrimination. What's the fourth and final one?
The culmination. Spirit discipline. Anma utukam. Anma means the spirit or the self.
So this is the highest level.
Yes. This leads directly to Atma Apyasa, the discipline or practice focused purely on the spirit, and ultimately to the state of Paravidya, transcendent wisdom. This is where the seeker moves beyond ethical practice and mental control into direct engagement with divine knowledge itself. Pure realization.
And the sources mention stages within this final discipline, 4 levels of progress.
That's right. They seem to measure the intensity and the focus of the wisdom being accessed. It starts off relatively slow.
How slow?
The first stage is called Mandatara Pravritti, very slow progress. This corresponds to Pashajana.
Pasha means fetter or bond, right? So knowledge of our limitations.
Exactly. Knowledge bound by the material world, by our spiritual bonds and impurities. Recognizing our own entanglement is the first slow step towards freedom.
Okay, what follows?
You progress through stages involving knowledge related to impure principles, Ashuddha Maya, and then mixed pure impure principles, Suchas of Maya. The pace quickens until you reach the highest stage.
Which is?
Tiviratara Pravritti, very intensive progress. This culminates in Patijana.
Pati means Lord or Master, so divine knowledge.
Yes. The knowledge of God, unbounded, direct, immediate wisdom that is identical to God's own awareness. It's only by mastering this amma ukam, this spirit discipline, that the seeker can finally break through all limitations and achieve that direct, non-dual experience.
That whole fourfold structure in the Karan Jiva Anma Ukam is incredibly rigorous and systematic. It maps a clear path from the mundane to the transcendent.
It does. It leaves very little to chance.
Now, this idea of transcendent wisdom, Patijanan, inevitably leads us into how Vaḷḷalār viewed traditional scriptures. This is part 3, getting into the more esoteric wisdom. There's this common idea, or maybe misconception, that he just rejected the Vedas, the Puranas, the epics.
Right, and the sources suggest that's an oversimplification. It's more accurate to say he rejected certain interpretations. He was critical of what he called motagraha, ignorant grasping, or superficial readings.
What kind of superficial readings?
Readings that focused only on the literal external form, the Pindalakancham. For example, getting caught up in debates about the physical appearance of deities described in texts, arguing whether God literally has hands and feet.
And missing the deeper symbolic meaning.
Exactly. He felt people were taking mythological descriptions, what he called kalayurite the katpai, imaginative descriptions expressed through art literature, and mistaking them for the ultimate formless reality. He famously said in his Purpadasam, the Grand Sermon, that people had put mud and hid the true meaning under layers of literalism.
So he wasn't throwing out the text, but saying people were reading them wrong. What was the right way, according to him?
He provided an esoteric key. He taught that the Puranas and epics are actually encoded truths. The term used is kuzukuthi, a kind of symbolic code or group signifier.
Encoded how?
They aren't just historical accounts of events on Earth. They describe processes and events happening simultaneously across multiple dimensions of consciousness, multiple realms.
So a cosmic battle described in a Purana isn't just an ancient story.
It's also a representation of an internal struggle happening within the seeker's own consciousness. It maps onto different levels from the outermost physical world, Purapuram, through subtle realms, Puram, Agapuram, Agam, right down to the innermost core of being, Agamagam or Antarantara.
That makes mythology incredibly relevant then. It becomes a roadmap for inner transformation.
Precisely. The battles, the journeys, the deities, they all correspond to psychological states, energy centers, chakras, and stages of spiritual development within us.
This connects back to the Satyajana Sabha, the Gnostic assembly, and the ritual with the 7 screens, the Dorisika, being removed one by one during the light worship. That sounds like a physical enactment of this multi-layered reality.
It is exactly that. Those 7 screens aren't just curtains. They symbolize the Septavita Avidakanchiko Mahamaya,
That's a mouthful. What does it mean?
the sevenfold veils or cloaks of ignorance, Aviditakanukko, belonging to the supreme mystery, Mahamaya. These are the layers of illusion, the different levels of limited consciousness that conceal the ultimate reality, the Parabrahma.
And what do these 7 layers represent practically for the seeker? What's being unveiled?
They correspond to the Saptaloko Vivaharika Bhavasya, the 7 worlds or planes of phenomenal existence, of relative reality. Each screen removed represents transcending one of these planes.
So moving from gross matter through subtle energy realms, mental realms, causal realms.
Something like that sequence, yes. By systematically removing these veils in the ritual, the seeker symbolically, and potentially actually through meditative focus, moves from being trapped in these limited phenomenal worlds to accessing the absolute consciousness revealed by the inner light, the Utu or Antaryoti, which is the Aruṭpirakāca. The ritual itself is a map of consciousness unfolding.
Amazing. He also applied this kind of esoteric key to traditional deities, didn't he? Which clarifies he wasn't anti-devotion, just anti-literalism. Let's take Lord Murugan Skanda as an example.
Yes, his interpretation of Murugan is a classic case. He reads Murugan not as just an external mythological warrior god, but as an internal occult yogic principle.
How so?
Murugan's famous 6 faces, Shanmugam, are interpreted as representing the 6 primary energy centers in the subtle body, the Aruṭpirakāca, the chakras.
6 chakras, and where do they lead?
They all unify or find their focal point as Jyoti, pure effulgence or light, located in the Puruva Madhyam, the center of the eyebrows, the third eye region. So the external form of the deity becomes a direct pointer for an internal yogic practice.
And the famous story of Murugan defeating the demon Sura, the Sura Saharam, that's not just a cosmic battle.
No, it's an internal allegory for the spiritual battle within the seeker.
Right.
The weapon Murugan uses, the spear or ves, is not a physical weapon.
What does it represent?
It represents Beifikam's sharp, penetrative, discriminative wisdom, the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal, the eternal from the temporary.
And the demon Sura and his brothers, they represent internal enemies.
Exactly. They are personifications of the primary spiritual vices that block enlightenment. The sources identify them specifically.
Which vices?
A veva intense, binding desire or craving is personified as the demon Padmasura. Madam meaning pride, arrogance, egoism is Gajamukam, the elephant-faced one. And Moram delusion, attachment, ignorance is Singamukam, the lion-faced one.
So the Sura Saharam is the yogic process of using discriminative wisdom, Vivekam, the spear, to destroy desire, pride, and delusion within oneself.
Precisely. Once these internal demons are vanquished, the path to higher consciousness, symbolized by Murugan himself, is cleared.
This really reinforces the point. Vaḷḷalār clearly had deep mystical experiences related to traditional forms. Sources say he worshipped at temples, revered figures like Thirugnana as his Manasika Sadguru, his chosen mind guru.
Yes, his devotional poetry is filled with references to Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, Murugan, the Kamaya Kauravas, the founding saints of Shaivism. He wasn't rejecting them.
But his ultimate standpoint was beyond any single form.
Absolutely. His core theological belief was Devaman, God is one. He made it clear that while people are free to connect with divinity through various names, nama, forms, and qualities, like Vishnu or Shiva.
These are just relative expressions.
Yes. They are all just different facets or manifestations of the single, ultimate, absolute, non-dual singularity, the Kevaladvaita Ekatva. And for him, the highest, most encompassing expression of that singularity was the Aruparunjusti, the vast grace light. It contains and transcends all forms.
So, not rejecting the gods, but rejecting the idea that God is limited to any one specific competing form, understanding the one behind the many.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, this brings us, finally, to the pinnacle of his entire system, Part 4. The path to immortality itself, Sagakalvi. This is where that promise of physical transformation we talked about at the beginning is meant to be realized.
Indeed. Sagakalvi, literally the deathless education or the science of immortality, Vaḷḷalār himself defined it quite poetically. Agara kalvi dan sagara kalvi.
Meaning?
Imperishable wisdom is the immortal wisdom. Or more directly, he called it Utambai Oyevita kalvi, the science of not letting the body perish.
Not letting the body perish. This is such a radical departure from so many spiritual paths that view the body as, a temporary vessel, maybe even a hindrance, something to be discarded at death to achieve liberation.
Exactly. Vaḷḷalār flipped that script. He saw the physical body not as a prison, but as a potential crucible, a vehicle capable of being transmuted into eternal light.
Okay, this sounds less like philosophy now and more like, well, you said it earlier, a science, maybe even occult physics. How does one actually achieve the non-destruction of the physical body? What's the mechanism?
According to the sources, the core mechanism lies in mastering a specific yogic technique. It's rooted in Vasi Yugam.
Breath yoga, right, Yama?
Yes, but a very specific, advanced form of it, integrated within the broader framework of Auka Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. The principle is that by meticulously controlling the flow of vital energy, Shakti, within the body through breath,
You control life itself.
you directly control the lifespan, the Yushkarla, and potentially you reverse the process of decay.
Now, the sources mention a specific hidden ratio associated with this, something called Iocho, 8:2. What is that?
Iocho is a cryptic term found in Tamil Sita literature. It refers to a precise, golden ratio for breathing in Vasi Yugam.
A ratio of what?
It signifies 8 units of inhalation, Pareka, to 2 units of exhalation, Rakaka.
8 in, 2 out. That's quite an asymmetry. Why that specific ratio? What does it do?
The traditional understanding in Siddha medicine and yoga is that our lifespan is linked to our breath rate. Faster, shallower breathing burns through our allotted breaths, our vital energy, much quicker. The Siddhocha ratio is a highly disciplined prayuma technique designed to drastically slow down that expenditure.
How does the 8.2 ratio achieve that?
By maximizing the intake and, crucially, the retention, kumpaka, which is implied between the 8 and 2 of prana during the long inhale, and then minimizing the loss of vital energy during the very short exhale. You're essentially supercharging the system with prana and then sealing it in, letting very little escape.
So you're conserving life force.
Exactly. You're controlling and conserving the prachashakti that is normally dissipated unconsciously through constant, uncontrolled breathing, sensory activity, and mental chatter. According to this science, mastering this specific breath control isn't just calming, it's the literal physical key to first extending and then ultimately transforming the lifespan of the physical body.
So the breath changes the biology. And the ultimate result of mastering this Vasi Yugam and the Ideo principle is this transformation.
Yes, what the texts call the nirmokaka parima, the liberating transformation or transmutation.
What happens to the body in this transformation? Describe it.
The change is described as fundamental. The ordinary physical body, the deha, which is seen as a destructible, gross entity composed of impure elements, ashuddha deha,
Yes.
undergoes a complete transmutation. It becomes the avinashyate ashuddha deha,
Which means?
the indestructible, luminescent, purified body, avinashaya indestructible, tejas luminosity, brilliance, suddha pure, deha body. The physical form itself is said to transform into something akin to pure, stable, conscious light or energy.
That's astonishing. And this transformed body, this light body, it's said to have extraordinary capabilities. It gains mastery over the physical world.
Yes. The sources detail the characteristics. The adept who achieves this state gains complete immunity to the 5 great elements, the Panyaka Mahabhutani, total mastery over matter.
Immunity how? Can you give examples?
Okay, for the earth element, solids. It's said that if stones or mud were thrown at this body, they wouldn't harm it, possibly passing through or being repelled. For water, the body won't sink. It can walk on water or remain submerged without drowning.
Wow. And fire, wind.
For fire, the body cannot be burned. Even intense heat leaves no mark or scar. For wind, hurricanes, strong gales, they cannot affect or move the body. And for space or ether, the adept can supposedly traverse vast distances almost instantaneously. And their perception isn't limited by physical space. They gain clairvoyance and clairaudience.
So Complete freedom from physical laws as we know them. And it's not just immune, it actually radiates.
Yes. The body itself is said to glow with intense brilliance. Like Aruṭpirakāca, the radiance of the sun, it becomes a source of light.
And this state comes with other powers.
It's associated with achieving the Siddhi, the 8 traditional supreme yogic accomplishments. Things like becoming infinitely small, or large, Mahima, becoming weightless, Lāghima, instantaneous travel, Prakamya, fulfilling any desire, Jitva, controlling nature, Vāshitva, and knowing past, present, and future. The adept's will and God's will become one.
So that rigorous fourfold discipline, the Kurant Okam, wasn't just about becoming a better person. It was fundamentally about preparing the physical and subtle bodies to withstand and facilitate this incredible energetic transformation.
That seems to be the explicit link. You need absolute purity, ethical, mental, physical, to handle the influx of divine energy and light required for this transmutation.
Okay, so the body becomes indestructible light, radiating energy, possessing cities. What's the final spiritual state, the ultimate culmination of this entire path? Is there a merger?
Yes. The final step is termed prapti, accomplishment, attainment, realization. This is where the non-dual consciousness becomes fully established and permanent.
And the individual soul, the jiva.
The jiva achieves complete dissolution into Shiva, into God, into the Absolute. The sources use a very beautiful and precise analogy for this.
Which is?
It's compared to karpuram, camphor, merging into fire.
Camphor burns completely, leaving absolutely no residue, no ash, just light and fragrance.
Exactly. The implication is that the purified, immortal body, having served its purpose as the vehicle for transformation, doesn't die or decay in the ordinary sense. It doesn't leave a corpse. It merges entirely, dissolves completely into the vast grace light, the Aruṭpirakāca.
Leaving nothing behind but the light itself.
Yes. This results in the ultimate state, the Shivoha Anubhuti, the direct lived experience of I am Shiva, I am God. The adept realizes their absolute internal non-dual identity with the supreme light. The journey is complete. Matter has been fully spiritualized, elevated back into pure conscious energy.
That is truly the ultimate synthesis, moving far beyond conventional spiritual goals to demand and offer a path for total transformation, physical, ethical, spiritual, within this very lifetime.
It really ties everything together. Practical compassion, the rigorous disciplines, the esoteric understanding of scripture and deities, the advanced yogic science of breath, it all serves this ultimate aim.
So if we were to synthesize the key takeaways from this deep dive into Vaḷḷalār's path,
I'd say there are 3 core pillars. First, Javakariyam, practical compassion, especially feeding the hungry, isn't optional. It's the mandatory first step, the key that unlocks divine grace.
Okay, pillar 1, compassion is the key.
Second, the Purana Ukam, the fourfold discipline, provides the necessary purification and stabilization. It cleanses the physical senses, masters the mind, enforces absolute non-discrimination and non-violence, Jeva Ukam, and finally attunes the spirit, Anima Ukam, to divine wisdom. It prepares the vessel.
Pillar 2, discipline prepares the vessel. And the third,
the ultimate goal, the purpose of the path, is not just enlightenment or liberation after death. It's Rāmaliṅka Parosvu, the attainment of a deathless, supreme life in the body, achieved through the esoteric science of immortality, Sagakalvi, particularly mastering the breath through Vāsayukam. The body itself becomes light.
Pillar 3, the goal is physical immortality as conscious light. Compassion, discipline, immortality. It's remarkable how this connects to the most ancient human spiritual aspirations.
It absolutely does. In fact, it perfectly mirrors one of the most profound prayers from the ancient Vedas. Perhaps a fitting thought to leave our listeners with.
Please.
The prayer from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Asatoma Sargamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Masyor Mamatabgamaya. Lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality.
Lead me from death to immortality.
Vaḷḷalār's entire teaching seems to insist that this wasn't just a poetic plea for an afterlife. It was a practical possibility, a realizable goal for the physical body itself. That body we inhabit, often seen as flawed or temporary. He presented it as a temple capable of being purified, transformed, and elevated into pure, deathless, conscious energy.
That is a profoundly challenging and inspiring vision. Thank you so much for guiding us through the intricacies of Vaḷḷalār's immortal path today.
It was my pleasure, a truly fascinating system to explore.
So as you go about your day, maybe take a moment to reflect on this radical idea. What if the physical body isn't just destined for decay? What if it truly holds the potential for luminosity, for transcendence, right here, right now? That's the magnificent demanding challenge left to us by Valar and the vast grace light.